Hey everybody, welcome back to Bloodborne. This is going to be episode 17, and we're going to start this off by going into Yahar'gul. Finally. I say that because I feel like it's been a while since we've been here, but it's really only been a couple of episodes. But the time between I did this episode versus the last couple of them, I believe was a few days at a time. But this is the way that I typically play the game. I go through the Forbidden Woods up until the halfway point there where I can get into Josephus' clinic and go into Cainhurst Castle and do that, get through that area, and then, same thing with Upper Cathedral Ward and Yahar'gul. I like to get the Upper Cathedral Ward key and then go into there and then come back here. So I'm pretty much just doing the playthrough the exact same way I would do a playthrough that I wasn't recording. So if that does tend to be a little bit confusing as to why I'm jumping around areas so much, that's why. And I do apologize for that if that has been a little confusing to anybody. But as time goes on with my playthroughs, I'm going to try to put it in a format that's a little bit more streamlined. If I seem kind of weird with my commentary or anything like that today, or if I sound like I'm a little excited or out of breath or whatever, the Elden Ring trailer just dropped about 3 hours ago, and I have been ecstatic and just overjoyed that trailer has finally dropped. I've just spent the past couple of hours watching it and rewatching it, watching other people's reactions to it, talking to people about it. It's been a really, really fun time, and I've really, really enjoyed it. So I'll try not to deviate into talking about that hardly as much as I already have. But yeah, so when we come into this door here, that's actually the door that we could not open up before when we got here in the early part of the game when we were brought here by a snatcher. And like I said in one of the previous episodes, you could look down into this area and you could see the lamp there. And as you could see when I walked past it, it is broken, so you cannot actually access this area anymore from that lamp. But when you come down these stairs, there is a encounter here that I typically don't really like, and that is 3 hunters that pretty much all gang up on you at once. Now, I tried to pull one of them at a time, and unfortunately it did not work. All 3 of them decided to chase me and to try to attack me at the same time, so I just wanted to kite them out to this area and try to take them on one by one. You've got a guy with beast claws here. You got a guy using the tiny tonitrus, and then the other guy has a church cannon, I believe. And I'm not quite sure what main weapons they use, except for the guy with the beast claws. But I think he's actually kind of humorous because he's pretty much naked and just has the beast claws. But yeah, as you can see, like, they pretty much don't give up. They kind of chase you, and you can kind of kite them to this little area right here. And they don't tend to go past the door. But they're all really tough, too. They got a lot of HP, just like other hunter fights in this game. Lots of HP, tend to walk really fast. They can parry you as well. You can poison them, though, and that's the main thing I'd use to try to take a little bit of extra HP off of there over time. In fact, the poison actually got that guy. So my recommendation is to not try to fight them where they are at. Because, like I said, they will all gang up on you at once. And that's going to make things extremely difficult for most people. So I would try to bring them to another area and just try to separate them like I've been doing here. This guy, I think, is particularly hard. He's one of the toughest of the three. And typically I don't have a lot of trouble parrying the guys with the threaded cane, but unfortunately I was just not landing my parries very well that day. So that is going to be it for those guys. One of them does give you the claw mark rune, which I do not remember what that does specifically. And I don't think it's one that I've ever really used that much. And I just kind of wanted to run around that little area down there and make sure that I didn't miss anything. These enemies are really kind of interesting. They are a variation of that werewolf beast type enemy that we've seen a few times, but they have a human leg coming out of their ass, which is kind of interesting. And they look like they're skinned versions of those beasts. So I would be really interested in knowing what happens there. But unfortunately, it doesn't really tell you anything anywhere. Just one of those really disgusting, gruesome type enemies that Bloodborne really likes to throw at you. And as opposed to the twin bloodstone shards and regular bloodstone shards that we were getting the first time we came around to this area, you can also get bloodstone chunks down here. I was trying to sneak up on that guy, but it didn't really work. And you can parry these just like those other types of enemies. They're pretty much the same. I don't think that they have any specific moveset that might be different or anything like that. Not that I've seen anyways. But they are pretty much the same. So the way that you would take the other enemies out, you would pretty much use those. Or used to take those enemies out as well. Down here, you'll actually see that the Snatchers, a lot of them are dead at this point. And there is Adela, who we killed earlier. I guess they couldn't find any kind of use for her body, so they just decided to leave her there. I actually don't know what happens to her if you don't talk to her and just leave her down there. And, you know, even if you do talk to her, if you don't send her anywhere, I don't exactly know what happens to her. So I'd be curious to actually find that out in another playthrough one of these days. But we're going to go out the exit here and meet a new enemy. I don't really know what these guys are called. but you saw him going down the stairs there. They're like a large mass of skulls and bodies that are just coming out of a box. Yeah, you can get a good look at him right there. So really, I don't have a whole lot to say about this area that I didn't say the first time that we were here. There's just mostly some different enemies and a lot more of them. That is a shortcut that we'll be able to open up. There are no more pig enemies in here either. The monsters that are coming out of the boxes there, they tended to take over those enemies, I guess. I think I was mostly trying to find the bell ringing woman so that I could get rid of those red enemies that are coming out of the ground. I think I do end up finding her a little bit later. But as you can see, this takes you from the first lantern down here to the second area. And if you ride this elevator up and then back down, you can climb out onto this rooftop here. We'll be checking that room out in just a moment. I actually wonder if maybe that beast is actually a human in the midst of their beast transformation. I doubt that's the case because of things like, you know, Father Gascoigne, who can just transform into a beast and doesn't look like that at all. And there's another enemy type that goes from human to beast that you meet in the game as well that transforms in front of you. And Vicar Amelia does that as well. So if that's the case, then this is a incredibly messed up type of beast transformation here. Kind of feel sorry for them if that's the case, so we'll just put them out of their misery. So that little transporter thing that we used took us to a later part of the level. It doesn't take you to like a completely new area or anything like that, but it does take you closer to the boss, so you can actually skip most of this level if you prefer to by using that method. And I always thought that this interior was very interesting here, how they have all the bodies coming out of the walls. Makes me wonder if those are just a statue type of thing, or if those are actually bodies that are just kind of trapped inside that wall for whatever reason. Yahar'gul is a pretty messed up place, from what I can gather about lore and things like that, which unfortunately I'm not really too versed on in terms of what the area actually is. But I do remember like little bits and pieces of it that I won't say in the video because I don't want to be wrong about anything. But I do remember it being a pretty messed up place. From what I can tell, it also has a lot to do with the School of Mensis, based on the fact that towards the end of the level you find people with the Mensis head cage on them. And that's one of the reasons that these enemies are actually so kind of hard to deal with at times, because the other ones can shoot you from really far away with whatever they're shooting you with. Because that one, he's all the way down there, like halfway down the road, and he can still hit me with those projectiles. So I just kind of try to tend to separate them by bringing one inside that door and trying to take care of him from there. They are, however, pretty easy to take on one by one, as you can see. And a little bit later, I'll show you what those glowing yellow things are used for. You can actually lure them into there, and it weakens them a little bit, slows them down. So as you'll see in just a moment, we are actually on the other side of that giant gate that we could not get through when we were in here earlier. From when we got transported here with the Snatcher. This is where we've gained some of those Madman's knowledge. Where we saw the bodies kind of cowering outside, or kind of, you know, kneeling to the gate there, hoping to be let in. And we'll grab some more bloodstone chunks there. This is... I was trying to trigger it. You can see it happening right there. If you were to grab that item in front of there, this enemy would come and attack you right as you grab that item. In typical Dark Souls fashion, it lures you over to an item just to have an enemy ambush you. Yeah, you can see it happen right there. Whatever is going on with those yellow flames, it hurts those things. And it slows their movement speed down. As you can see, he's not very It's not very mobile at that point. But you can only use it on one of the enemies, typically, because it tends to go out after 1 or 2 hits. But that will also hurt you if you run into it as well. So you do have to be careful of that. And unfortunately, I died. They can get kind of out of control if you let them. And I finally took care of this bell-ringing woman over here. She was just up on this little balcony, up these stairs in the area that I did not go into before. So yeah, what I said earlier, you can get 2 of them to hit one of those yellow flames if you do it quick enough. But it extinguished itself pretty quickly after that. And you can see, it just lights them on fire. And really, really decreases their movement speed. Really, really decreases the things that they can do. So if you do have trouble fighting those guys, that's definitely something I recommend doing. I pretty much just went over to that area just so that I could get my blood echoes back. Because there's nothing else over in that area, really. In fact, I don't actually think there is anything else over in that area, if I'm remembering correctly. As long as you got everything the first time that you came here. At this point, it was pretty much just a run for the boss. But you definitely want to pick up the Arcane Lake rune there. And try not to die like I did. Also, this is what happens if you cannot get past all these guys. So I just wanted to show that because I honestly thought that was pretty funny. And as you can see there, I only actually have 8 blood vials. So I'm not sure why I didn't go back to the Hunter's Dream and buy more or anything like that. I think it was just because I thought, like, hey, maybe I'll pick up some more, or I would be able to take care of the boss without having to heal very much. And that can certainly be the case with this boss. The boss that we're about to fight is the One Reborn, and it's honestly one of the easier bosses in the game. But he does look pretty imposing at first, just because of how big he is and how many things he can, it seems like anyways, he can do to you. Most of his attacks are pretty simple to dodge, aside from one, and that's actually one that gets me. I actually do die to this boss one time. So, spoiler warning with that. But we are going to run straight into this boss room here. And something I noticed when I was kind of looking back was that you can actually summon for this, and I did not know that. So this is the One Reborn. And if you've played Demon Souls, then you kind of know what's going on here. They don't have archers up in the rafters here, but they do have these bell-ringing women who, I believe, charge the boss up. And they potentially shoot projectiles at you. I honestly am not sure because I've killed them every single time that I've come into this boss fight. So I've never actually left them alive enough to know exactly what they do. And there's 6 of them that are around here. I called them rafters earlier. I did not mean to call the balcony that we're on rafters. But I definitely just misspoke about that. And there's actually a place that you can drop down from there, from that little ledge. And I used to think that you could actually lure him over there and do a drop attack on him. And I used to try to do that whenever I fought him before. But I was never able to do it, so I'm not sure that it can be done. I'm not sure why I used the Augur or Gretus there. So yeah, if you stay in one place long enough while you're fighting him, he will barf all of those body parts and disgusting stuff on top of you. And that can kill you pretty quickly if you do get caught up in it. I do believe he has a puke attack that will spread stuff on the ground, and of course he can flail around and get you that way as well. but he isn't typically that difficult. You'll see how I fight him in just a moment here. And I'm not going to talk through that fight as is typical fashion for my videos. I like to let the boss fight play by itself. Though I have gone back on certain boss fights and talked about different strategies that I've used in bosses and things like that, and uploaded those into their own separate videos. So I'm starting to think that I'm going to do that with a few more bosses, and maybe I'll do it with this one. But I'll see you after the boss fight. So yeah, that boss fight is pretty easy as far as I'm concerned. As long as you stick to trying to hit the legs, avoid his flailing attacks, avoid his puke attack, and go for his head whenever he's dropping it, and you're able to get some hits in on that, he tends to be taken down pretty quickly. After that, of course, you come into this room where everybody's sitting around with cages on their heads, and you get transferred to the lecture hall again. So we will explore that in the next episode. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.